Hello, okay, for those of you returning to the channel, welcome back, and for those of you that are new here, that have just stumbled upon this video, then thank you for joining me, and welcome to my spoiler-filled review of Alien Earth, Episode 6, The Fly. And to just touch back on the previous episode, for those of you that are new here, and haven't been following my reviews and sort of my thoughts and feelings when it comes to this show so far, I've been really enjoying this show. I am surprised. I was just very much on the fence when it came to sort of the idea of this story, the premise of it being based a few years before the story of Ellen Ripley and all of that. I had problems with it. For me, I wasn't sure if it was going to work. I wasn't really 100% on board with it. But the show has pulled me in and I'm having a blast. Episode 5 was a blast. It was a hell of a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. Yes, it's Noah Hawley doing his remake of the 1979 movie, but it's also very much Noah Hawley. And I feel like that it honours what's come before, like those original movies, in a way that's very clever and very smart. And that's kind of repeated, or that's also reflected in many other elements when it comes to bringing this show to life, like the music for one. The score in this show is amazing. I love just how it echoes what's come before, as well as at the same time be its own entity, its own thing. And just, yeah, I think they're just doing a wonderful job with the show, through the writing, through how it's been brought to life, technically in honouring what's come before, and so doing it in a way that is smart and clever. Like a lot of sort of fans within sort of the fan base of Alien, you know, that last episode I felt like was very divisive. There were some people sort of in the middle, and there were things that they liked, there were things they didn't like, and there are people that hated it and were just sort of like, oh, it's just a repeat of the 1979 Alien. There was nothing really special in it or anything, and I completely disagree. I just felt like what that episode did was not only cater to someone like myself that is a massive fanboy of the Alien franchise, but also bring to life a story that has layers, that has depth. You know, there is a lot more going on than just the xenomorph. As I've said in my previous videos, the xenomorph for me within this show is being used as a catalyst, as a vessel to really allow us to explore these very human themes and stories. And I think Noah Hawley is doing an incredible job. Not everyone's going to agree with me on this, and I've just surprised myself, to be honest with you, because I was not expecting to enjoy this show as much as I am. And so here we've got episode 6, The Fly, and coming off episode 5, you could say it's kind of coming back down to earth, you could say. Coming down from a high, and it was, I mean, episode 5, you know, as a massive fanboy of the Alien franchise, I thought it was a great episode. It was the way the momentum builds within that hour, and just the way in which it climaxes, you know, it kind of lands with this emotional thud that just knocked me for 6. How the context within this show is changed when it comes to the character of Morrow, like how our perception of Morrow is just flipped on its head, and that, you know, it's as a result of seeing that other layer and sort of kind of finding out a little bit more about the character and sort of what is driving him. And I just loved that last, I think it's 20-30 seconds of him on the ship, on the Maginot, and he's speaking to Mother, and you got the xenomorph coming in, and he dives into the safety pod, and just how that entire scene plays out. It is beautiful. Like, I don't want to go on about it too much because I talk about it in my previous video, but then I just love how we sort of transition then into this next episode, and it is, you know, we are coming back down to earth in many ways. And it's an episode that kind of really starts to sort of explore the kind of the inner workings of how sort of these 5 corporations on earth are working together, sort of the dynamic sort of between these corporations and sort of how it all works, to sort of the more psychological aspect of its story, sort of the more human aspect of its story, whether it be dumbing down Dibs so she behaves in a way that is marketable really for the company, you know, that kind of, you could sense that coldness and the soulness of that corporate entity that is Prodigy, and even Weyland-Yutani. Like, these are the real monsters within the show. And again, this is where we've got another hour here of this show kind of really laying all of that bare and sort of really exploring those themes in a way that I think is very clever and very smart. Like, I love the scene between Boy Cavalier and Yutani. It's a great moment. And I also just want to sort of touch on the costume design as well. Like, I haven't spoken about the costume design yet, but I just think it's fantastic because, again, like every other aspect of this show, it kind of really kind of honors and captures what's come before, that allows this story to feel authentic within the Alien franchise, that it feels like it exists within the Alien franchise, within the world of Alien. The suits that, you know, the corporate entities are wearing, you know, they're pretty much the same design of those that we see in Aliens. And so there's little things like the detail, like there is so much detail within the show that I'm really appreciating as a massive fanboy really of Alien. But at the same time, I'm really admiring what it is that Noah Hawley is doing by, you know, expanding upon what is only touched on in those movies. And I think that is what Noah Hawley is doing a wonderful job at here. And not everyone's going to agree with me on this. I know that from what I'm hearing, from what I'm reading. Not everyone is on the sort of the same page as I am, or feeling the same way as I am. Like, what I really liked about this scene, other than the kind of the back and forth between Yutani and Boy Cavalier, because in many ways it kind of sort of reflects today, really, with sort of the kind of the younger generation and the older generation, where like today it's all about, you know, TikTok and just kind of very quick, fast content and just producing things very quickly and not really giving things time to breathe and sort of actually, you know, exist, really, you could say, and just sort of moving forward very quickly without maybe thinking about the consequences. And that's what kind of Boy Cavalier is sort of representing. And you've then got Weyland-Yutani on the other side of the table, represented by Yutani, and she kind of represents more of that classic villain, you know, sort of that calculating, taking its time, you know, yes, we're following the rules and regulations, but there's something going on in the shadows that we can't quite see. And so you kind of in many ways got two different monsters here on display, and they're not quite as clear cut as they appear to be, as well as, you know, exploring themes around kind of corporations being unchecked. And that, you know, this is a moment that kind of really sort of displays that or explores that, where, you know, we've got these corporate entities, but are they actually being regulated and sort of checked on, you could say? You know, it's a scene, it's a moment that kind of really explores the dangers of unchecked, you know, corporate regulations. And then the episode goes on to explore themes around identity and trauma, you know, suppressing trauma and the implications that could have on someone, and taking away or sort of trying to suppress or change someone's personality, and exploring themes around, you know, decision making from a moral perspective and doing what's right done wrong. And it's just, it manages to explore quite a bit when it comes to real, very kind of grounded human themes. And I think it's done in a way, as I keep saying, it's done in a way within this show, especially this episode, that is very smart and very clever. And at the same time, then transporting me into the world of Alien that feels very authentic. Like, they're not only pleasing the fanboy inside me, but they are sort of giving me something that I find is really intriguing and feels right within the story of Alien. And I think they are using the alien as well as these other creatures in a way that is incredibly smart, that is incredibly clever to really explore these kind of very real human themes. You know, we've got characters here that we care about, that we're interested by. You know, even the damn sheep. You know, with the Teoculus, I mean, the sheep is now essentially the Teoculus, and just how that is brought to life here within this episode. Like, it could be simple little things, like, you know, it'll be like a simple shot where you've got Tootles and he's doing his thing, he's feeding these creatures, and you'll just have the sheep or the Teoculus there in the corner. And I just love how in that entire moment, in that entire scene, and how that scene plays out, it's always looking at what is going on, it's observing everything, and it kind of makes you wonder, you know, are these creatures trapped inside this cage, or are these characters, the hybrids, the humans, are they actually trapped? Are they actually the ones that are trapped inside this cage with these creatures? I kind of just love how all of that is kind of really coming to life, and it's almost like the creatures, these aliens, they're observing what is going on, and they've also got an agenda themselves, and it's just, yeah, I just love how it's playing out. And it's an episode full of these great character moments with each other, whether it be Boy Cavalier and Yutani, or Kirsch and Morrow. You know, there's a scene with Kirsch and Morrow, it's one of my favourite moments, and how these two interact with each other, and they're almost threaten each other in a way, but in a way that's kind of that's not really direct, but they kind of hinting at, you know, what they are going to do, or what are they potentially going to do to each other if they get the opportunity and moment and time. And I think it's a great moment where you've got these two characters that I really, really like. I think there's definitely, again, you know, there's more going on with Kirsch than meets the eye. Whether that kind of unfolds that way, I'm not sure. Just how Kirsch observes what occurs back at the lab, I mean, it's almost like he's allowing it to. In many ways, it's kind of like he's doing what the sheep did, or the Teoculus, and just how the Teoculus sort of like is observing kind of the moment, and then obviously manipulates that moment in a way that has Tootles trapped inside the cage with the fly. And so it's almost like Kirsch is doing the exact same thing, and so you've got all these different characters almost in a way pulling these strings and trying to manipulate certain characters and moments to their own cause or agenda, and it's just really, really intriguing. You know, the Teoculus in this show, you know, that is, you know, it's implanted itself now into the sheep and it's controlling the sheep, has easily become one of my new favourite villains. I just find it incredibly clever in how, you know, and I think a lot of this is just down to sort of the writing and how this story is being constructed. Like, there is so much thought being put in to what it is that they're exploring with the themes, and just how they're exploring the themes within each of these episodes and with these characters. I just think it's very intriguing, it's very compelling, and, you know, I didn't find myself once missing the xenomorph, and every time we do get the xenomorph, which is very briefly in this, you know, it's very brief in this episode, you know, it's fantastic, it's great. Like, to just touch on the effects for a moment, you know, there's a beautiful blend of practical and CGI within this show, especially this episode, and you know, you sort of witness the xenomorph kind of growing, and there is a moment where, yes, there's CGI there, but there's also a man in a suit, and I just think the blend of both CGI and practical in that moment is seamless, and there is a bit of an uneasiness or a creepiness about how it moves as well, and I just love how the alien, the xenomorph, is implemented within this episode, and again, kind of really kind of honing in what I feel, or how I think Noah Hawley is using the alien in this show as a vessel, as a catalyst to tell these kind of much more grounded human stories, these kind of very real human themes when it comes with these, you know, when it comes to these characters, whatever it be, trauma and identity. And the one thing that I really like that this episode does, and this might be a small little thing for a lot of people, but I've watched the episode twice now, and it definitely, watching it a second time, reaffirmed that this particular moment that I'm about to talk about was as effective as it was the first time around. Now, as a big fanboy of the Alien franchise. Like, I've been a massive fan of the movies since I was a kid. I was watching these films at an age that I shouldn't have. But, you know, there's been quite a few movies now, and we know what happens. We get the facehugger, it attaches itself to the human, and then, you know, we get the chest burster. And we've seen it so many times at varying qualities, you know, from the Alien films to the Alien vs. Predator movies. But what I liked that this episode did, or what I felt like it achieved for me, was the scene where Arthur is trapped inside that lab by Slightly, you know, so he could save his mother. And just that entire scene where the facehugger just leaps onto Arthur, and then the camera focuses on Slightly as he's got his back turned to what is happening in the background. And you can see and you can hear Arthur struggling with the facehugger. They actually managed to make that moment disturbing again. They managed to make that moment unsettling again. Like, we've seen it a million times now. But this particular moment, you know, it's not just another moment where a facehugger jumps on another character and then then you're going to get a chest burster. It's not just another one of those moments. It was a moment that actually felt unsettling. It felt unsettling to watch. It made me feel uneasy due to the story that's going on with these characters in this moment and how everything is framed, you know, to the struggle that Arthur has with the facehugger, to what is actually going on in that moment. Like, what is actually going on with that character and sort of the process that then takes place with that character. And I was like, wow, you know, they are really kind of bringing back to life the true horror of what kind of made those original movies scary as a kid again. And that's another aspect that I'm really admiring when it comes to this show. Like, I think there's a lot of people who are going into the show just wanting a lot of the Alien, or wanting more of a certain thing. But for me, I am kind of really liking that kind of the dive really into that kind of the more psychological human aspect of its story, because I feel like it was something that Ridley Scott was attempting with the prequels, but he didn't quite pull it off, and he didn't quite get the chance to really finish that. You know, especially with David's character, that was the one aspect of the prequels that I really liked, that I was really intrigued by, that kind of really resonated with me. The story of David really resonated with me, but I feel like Noah Hawley has nailed it here, and I think this is the prequel that we should have had, you know, to Alien. You know, Noah Hawley has managed to achieve, along with the other writers, by the way. He hasn't just wrote, you know, a lot of these episodes he has wrote with other writers, but they've done so much by, like, just adding the mystery back to the Alien. And I keep saying this, you know, up until this point, you know, they have done that. They've achieved that. We've now got the mystery back to the Alien. And, you know, that could change by the last episode. And, you know, we might get a season 2. Hopefully we will. And it might actually connect itself to the prequels. But at the moment, it does feel like that we've got that mystery back to the Xenomorph. And that we've really got the horror and that kind of the disturbing, those kind of disturbing, deeper themes that those original movies sort of touch on. But here we're kind of really exploring much deeper. And as a result, getting a very effective story that feels like a very authentic continuation sort of within the Alien franchise. So yeah, you know, it is a little bit, you know, compared to the last episode, or coming from that last episode, it is a little bit, you know, of sort of like a thud back down to earth, you could say. And then we get this next episode, episode 6, where again, it kind of takes time to breathe and just explores and digs a little bit deeper, you know, into sort of what is going on with these characters mentally. And then really sort of see those cracks start to form and sort of how that kind of slowly turns into chaos. And I just think how it's unfolding is very compelling. I'm having a hell of a lot of fun. You know, again, it's an episode. It was great. The last episode was great because we got the Xenomorph. You know, we got a lot of the Xenomorph. Yeah, he's there. But I didn't find myself missing it because I am invested within this story. I'm invested with these characters. We've only got 2 episodes left, and I do wonder how they're going to sort of tie a lot of things up when it comes to these characters and their arcs. I don't think they're going to do it personally, because it is only the 2 episodes. I don't know how they're going to quite do it, because there is a lot going on with these characters, and I think this episode does a very, very good job again at kind of diving a little bit deeper into sort of the psyche and kind of what it is these characters are going through mentally. But we do only have 2 hours left, and I am quite intrigued in how they're gonna wrap it all up. But I am really liking this show. I'm having a great time. There's just so much that's making me smile, you know, as a fanboy of the Alien franchise, you know, right down to sort of the set design, the costumes, the sound effects, like just the scan. When they scan in Nibs at the beginning of this episode, it just took me straight back to Alien 3. And, you know, it's all those little things, those little details that kind of just transport me back into this world that feels authentic. And it's one of the things that I was worried about. You know, especially with it being based on Earth, I think it's easier to kind of transport you back into this world when it is on a space station or on a spaceship or on another planet. But one of my fears about this show was bringing it down to Earth. Would they be able to recapture the kind of the aesthetic and the vibe and the atmosphere and just that kind of the feeling of being within that world of Alien that we are used to with those original movies? Or what our imaginations might perceive Earth to look like? Because if you think about it, we never actually saw Earth within those original movies. I mean, we you know, other than sort of flying through the clouds at the end of Alien Resurrection, the theatrical version, you know, we never actually see Earth, and so it's always left to our imagination what this shithole, as some of the characters put it, would look like. And so I was always worried about it from that perspective as well, like, would it feel like this fits within the universe? And I think they've done a pretty good job at that. Like, I think I would have liked something more kind of, when it comes to Earth itself, a little bit more Blade Runner, maybe. But that's just me then kind of going a little bit nitpicky. So yeah, I think I've rambled on again enough with this episode. Had a really good time with it. I can understand why there may be some people who aren't. I get that. I am starting to sort of really kind of dive into sort of the other criticisms and sort of other thoughts and opinions from people within the fandom, within the Alien fandom, and I do find myself that I'm in more the positive side of this show, which shocks me, to be honest, because I really didn't expect myself to fall in love with this show as much as I have. I fucking love it. I honestly think that Noah Hawley has done a fantastic job, and just fingers crossed, you know, it sticks the landing. So yeah, that's enough rambling. They are my thoughts on episode 6 of The Fly, Alien Earth, and I will be giving The Fly So yeah, they're my thoughts on Alien Earth episode 6, The Fly. But what do you guys think? Are you loving this show so far, like myself? Are you hating it? Or are you still on the fence? Are you in the middle? Are you liking aspects but hating others? Let me know below and let's get a discussion going. And if you've made it this far into the video, then thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And if you want to watch future movie and TV reviews from just some random Welsh geek rambling on, then please hit the subscribe button. It will mean an awful lot to me. My next review will be for The Long Walk. It's the latest Stephen King adaptation. I caught the movie last night, and all I'm going to say is I'm really looking forward to sharing my thoughts review on this one. And that will be my next review. That will land on Thursday. And just another massive thank you to everyone that's supported the channel, supported myself. Whether it be liking, commenting, subscribing, it means the world to me, and it will always overwhelm me that so many of you already do want to follow just some random Welsh geek ramble on about film and TV and pronounce things incorrectly and all of that. So yeah, that's it from me for now, guys. Thank you all for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'll be catching you guys soon.